In Oshawa, in a quiet middle-class neighborhood, lives Jolene Guignard. One day, she and her husband got letters in the mail, letters that would shatter their world. It's the kind of notice no Canadian ever wants to receive, an income tax reassessment from the Canada Revenue Agency. Out of the blue, the taxman was slapping her family with almost $70,000 in penalties.
I was not expecting this. The numbers are so big, I didn't even know what to think of it. But our own government is coming after us with these ridiculous amounts.
Hey!
Hi!
How's it going?
Good, how are you?
Good.
In 2008, Jolene and her friend Jennifer Arbuckle, like millions of other Canadians, looked for help to prepare their income tax filings. They had heard of a tax preparer from Scarborough, Muntaz Razul, who claimed he was an expert and knew how to get larger tax returns legally.
When we first met him, he presented to us a lot of refunds that other people had received and had done the same things. He, showed us names of people, copies of the checks they'd received. He gained our trust.
He really knew the Income Tax Act.
They signed up, and he prepared their tax filings. But once they had filed their returns, the CRA started asking questions about business losses the tax advisor had inserted in their filings. None of them operated a business. The so-called tax expert was part of a group that became known as fiscal arbitrators. Thousands of ordinary Canadians from coast to coast were sold their dubious tax services. The CRA charged the people who made up the scheme with fraud, but it also went after the clients who were lured into it. The Revenue Agency imposed a harsh and costly punishment, gross negligence penalties, on all of the clients. Tell us a little bit about Toronto lawyer Duane Milo represents 50 clients deceived by those men.
And I mean, not just my clients, but every single person in Canada, which is probably 2,000 or 3,000 people that did the program, were assessed gross negligence penalties. Most of my clients face penalties between $50,000 to over $100,000.
Those penalties were way out of proportion with the $10,000 to $15,000 tax refunds his clients got back. Milo called the CRA to try to reduce those penalties.
Thank you for your time.
But to no avail.
They just said, your clients should have known better, they shouldn't have trusted this person, and that, in our view, they were grossly negligent. So you're going to have to go to tax court.
6 years went by while they were waiting to get a hearing in tax court, and the interest on the penalties keep piling up.
Regardless of what the outcome is, I can't pay the amount. So unfortunately, I would probably have to file for bankruptcy. So it's...
Yeah, we're looking at the possibility of losing our homes and filing consumer proposals or filing bankruptcies, and we're just starting out. We have, little children.
The Canada Revenue Agency had decided to take a tough stand against those middle-income Canadians, but at the same time, it was quietly investigating another tax avoidance scheme. This one was run by a prestigious accounting firm well-connected in Ottawa. Its clients, some of the wealthiest people in the country. In 2012, the CRA discovered that the accounting firm KPMG helped multi-millionaires hide their fortunes offshore. The money was hidden behind a series of shell companies here in the Isle of Man. The CRA alleged the scheme intended to deceive the minister. As we discovered when we went to the Isle of Man last year, it was also built on secrecy.
I'm sorry, I can't ask you to discuss that with you. It's confidential, so I'm sorry.
I wouldn't discuss client business within the other client.
And that secrecy helped shield the identity of the KPMG clients. Laval University tax professor André Larreau came with us to look for clues about the mysterious Canadian clients in the KPMG scheme. No one on the island seemed willing to help.
We didn't get much answers, but we got a lot of non-answers. And to me, this is sort of important because you could see there was something going on there.
The CRA knew that KPMG had sold the Isle of Man tax scheme to many wealthy clients across Canada, but it was so secret the agency didn't know who they all were, and KPMG was not about to tell them. That's when CRA obtained a court order forcing KPMG to hand over all the names. That bold move in court was echoed with tough talk in Ottawa from the CRA's top enforcement officials.
The rules of the game have changed. If you are a tax evader and we can prove it, we will prosecute people to the full extent of the law.
Mr. Ted Gallivan.
And they weren't just going after tax dodgers, but also their tax advisors.
In our criminal prosecutions, we have focused heavily on the promoters, those people who take advantage of these aggressive programs.
But for all that tough talk in public, how to explain what happened next in the KPMG case? The CRA let it go dormant. Months dragged on, then years.
Good morning, everyone. It's a delight to be here again.
Last spring, KPMG was sponsoring former Finance Minister Joe Oliver's post-budget speech in Vancouver. DMC was KPMG's head of tax, Elio Luongo. We had hoped Luongo might tell us what was really going on back then.
See, there's a court order that tells KPMG to hand over the names to the revenue agency. Why are you refusing to do that?
I think you need to look into that, and you should talk to our communications department about that, because you need to understand the details behind that. Thank you.
We didn't know it then, but at the very time that Luongo was walking away from our cameras, CRA was putting together the final touches on a settlement offer to KPMG's clients. Precisely 3 days after we met Luongo at the finance minister's talk, the CRA sent a confidential letter to the accounting firm. Nobody else knew about it until a brown envelope was leaked to CBC producer Harvey Cashore. Inside, that very document, dated May 1st, 2015. It was a copy of the offer CRA made to KPMG's unknown clients. This was a top-secret deal, so secret that if anyone talked about it, the deal could be terminated. And it wasn't the clients demanding secrecy, it was the CRA itself.
This doesn't pass the smell test. This is very troubling.
This was sent.
What was the secret deal all about? We let Dwayne Milo read the document for himself.
So the gist of this, it appears that, oh, whoa. No penalties. So the CRA is waiving all the penalties for all the years in respect of their participation in this program.
What do you think of this?
It's outrageous. It's unfair that these sophisticated, wealthy Canadians are getting a second chance. I think it's unfair and that there's a double standard here.
No penalties, no criminal investigations. Just pay the back taxes, a bit of interest, and call it a day. Assistant Commissioner Ted Gallivan is the CRA's new head of compliance.
Canadians are going to watch this tonight and are going to wonder if there's a double standard there.
In both cases, we had Canadians who were participating in aggressive tax planning and non-compliance, and in both cases, the CRA actively pursued them.
He says he can talk about the KPMG offer, but admits sometimes they decide to cut deals.
Generally speaking, what I would say is when a case is before the courts, the outcome is uncertain. And so the CRA will, in consultation with justice and other experts, sometimes reach a decision that maximizes the result for the Canadian public and the public purse.
So there's a court file where CRA in court is saying that this scheme was intended to deceive the minister. Why is there no action taken against KPMG in this case?
The CRA is still actively pursuing this matter, and so I really can't comment about what decisions we may or may not have made.
This is the offer that the CRA.
No reduction. 2012, no penalties.
Wow. How is
Under
that
which basis?
Like why? Why is that? So all years no penalties.
How did they get this? How do we get not even a reduction in our penalties after all this years?
Not even that, maybe.
Nothing. Nothing.
For us, it's been going on for over 6 years now. Or
So
close
because,
to 6 years.
Well, because these people are rich, right? Because these people have connections, they're wealthy.
The new Liberal government campaigned on fairness for the middle class and transparency in government. Yet the Prime Minister's office didn't return our calls, and the Revenue Minister declined to talk to us. So we thought we'd try one more time. We caught up with Diane Leboutillier at Ottawa's Winterlude.
Pourquoi? Je peux pas me permettre là, d'amener aucun commentaire.
She declined again. She says she can't talk about a case that's before the courts.
C'est bon? Bonne journée.
The Minister of National Revenue has the discretion to waive all penalties in tax cases.
I would ask the new Minister of National Revenue to reconsider the facts of the individuals who were scammed by fiscal arbitrators. Because certainly if these clients are entitled to this great deal, my clients are equally or more entitled to it.
For KPMG, it was business as usual. Days after they got the secret offer from the CRA, a meeting across the street from the agency's headquarters. Executives from KPMG joined industry colleagues at the Chateau Laurier in Ottawa. The invited guests, senior officials from the Canada Revenue Agency, including some of the CRA's top compliance officials. KPMG has the kind of access Dwayne Milo could only dream of.
I wish I had that access to those connections, but I just don't.
It's just not fair.
It's heart-wrenching. It makes me sick.
It's not fair. Like, I want to cry. Like, it's not...
Yeah, it's horrible. It's absolutely horrible. We have nothing left.
After 6 years, Jolene and Rémi finally faced the CRA in court last week for a first hearing. If they lose their appeal, they say they will lose everything. For The National, I'm Frédéric Zalac in Oshawa.